going on, everybody? Welcome into a Puncher's Chance episode numero 5. With me, as always, my co-host, Mr. Steven Hines. Steve, welcome back, man.
How you doing today, bud? Having a good one?
I'm doing good.
You ready for these fights?
I have embraced the FNX 30-day challenge. I am slimmed down to 11 pounds now, drinking Diet Coke instead of regular right now. So we are, I'm feeling good. I'm looking a lot better. I can finally fit into this shirt. Still a little tight, but at least it goes around the arms.
Yeah, you're not falling down on the scale. We're not going to have a repeat of last week, right? So we're good.
Yeah, I'm not passing out trying to cut weight. So I'm doing it the healthy way.
There you go.
This fight card's
There you
super
go.
fun for me, not only because I became a massive Stipe fan as of late, which, for some reason I just never took too much stock in Stipe, but I've just grown to love the guy and found out, how he is as a person, literally as a firefighter, so like that's just awesome. And he's not just like special. He's not like, the special firefighter who only works half a day. Like he works the crappy shifts and washes the fire trucks. Like, I've fallen in love with Stipe. He's a super awesome guy and friend of the show. Our latest interviewee, Miss Miranda Maverick, has been bumped up to the pay-per-view. So very excited to talk about that fight. And we wish her the best of luck here at Puncher's Chance and, of course, the locker room. Well, let's get into it. Pay-per-view card.
Let's do it.
First up fight, Kama Worthy versus Jamie Malarkey. This one's going to be a pretty fun fight. They're both very similar. Jamie Malarkey has an inch over Kama Worthy. But other than that, the exact same amount of reach, both at 74, both same styles of fighting. What do you have going on in this fight?
I have Worthy taking it, but literally this is anybody's fight. I mean, even Vegas, I think Vegas has Worthy at like minus 135, which is not, I mean, it's a slight favorite. But I mean, it's a good, fun, lightweight fight just to kick off the card. It'll be entertaining. They're both unranked, both coming up, so it's not the big names that we're used to.
Yeah.
But I'd keep an eye on him. Worthy at 16-7. This is kind of a make or break time for him where he's either bound for a resurgence or you're getting into that journeyman territory where, those losses start equaling the wins and you're there to kind of usher in the new regime. So, and especially with the way UFC's been making cuts, I have Worthy is taking a slight edge over this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Malarkey pulls it out.
Yeah, this is definitely a toss-up fight. Like we said, they're both very similar in fighting style. They both, literally same amount of reach. I'm going to go Worthy here as well. Like you said, it is a toss-up fight, but I think Worthy does have a little bit of an edge because he does see that the UFC is cutting. If you start totaling up these losses, the UFC is just trimming fat all around the divisions right now just because they have so much to handle with it. So I'm going to go Worthy here with the slight edge for the simple fact that I think Worthy's got a little bit more of an edge to coming into this fight. But Jamie Malarkey is a pretty talented guy. This lightweight division, now that we see so much movement going on with retirement and belt stances, I mean, this is a chance for one of these guys to really usher their way forward. So I think this is a pretty important fight for both guys, but I'm going to go with you with Kama Worthy. Next up, the fight I really want to talk about, Miranda Maverick, Jillian Robertson. Now, I talked about this with Miranda on our interview. Both very similar, both very aggressive on the ground. Miranda Maverick coming in at 10-2, Jillian Robertson 9-5. They're both very similar fighters. Jillian's got a little bit more, I guess, experience, we would say, in the Octagon sense. But Miranda Maverick I think is a lot stronger of a fighter. And we all know, strength, especially in ground games, strength is what's going to inevitably be the deciding factor in who can control the ground, who can control the center of the Octagon. So Miranda here, like I talked about with her a couple weeks ago, I think Miranda's got the edge here when it comes to the simple fact that she's just so much stronger. But what do you have going on?
I've got Miranda taking this, just due to the fact that you had the interview and stuff, and good old ESPN Plus lets me go in and watch a lot of the Invicta fights, so I did a little bit of research on her and watched some real fights, and I'm a huge fan of hers at this point.
Yeah.
Her ground game is incredible. Her striking is catching up.
Yeah.
And I feel like she could be someone to really make a push to that next level and really take that next step up in that division.
Mhm.
Um, the and this is the problem with women's sports in general is the difference between the number 2 and the number 3 and the number 7 is huge.
Yeah.
Um, so she's one that I think is really poised to make that next big jump. And I mean, she's beat a lot of Bellator and UFC fighters in Invicta. So I think that there's a real good shot that she takes Jillian out here. I mean, this is I mean, nothing is a lock, but this is almost my lock of the card
Yeah.
is Miranda taking this one.
Yeah, I think right now the flyweight division's wide open too. So if she comes out here and just has a done in one round kind of a fight, like I think she has the possibility of doing, I think this is a chance for Miranda to really put her imprint not only in the UFC, being so new to the UFC, but in this division and really, be fighting for a belt in the very, very near future in this flyweight division. I think Miranda's just too strong for her. I mean, from all the
Yeah.
opponents and from what we have watched and researched, she can outmuscle her opponents and basically bend them to her will. And when you're that talented on the ground with that strength, that combination is absolutely scary. And like you said, her striking is catching up with her ground game. Just, seems like just as quick. It's taking leaps and bounds from fight to fight. I've got Miranda here probably in a first round stoppage.
Yeah. The only thing that scares me for her is just that big pressure, or relying too much on that strength. But I mean, when you got jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and striking, and you can put it all together, it's tough to beat.
Yeah. Well, she's definitely a complete fighter, and she's growing more and more when it comes to the striking side. Once that catches up with her wrestling, I mean, like I said, she's going to be a champion in the very near future. Moving
Oh, for
on,
sure.
a guy who I really loved, the Rainbow Man himself, Sean O'Malley is finally back. It seems like it's been forever since we have seen this man fight, coming off of injuries after injuries after injuries, always getting hurt, always ticky tacky. But he's a super skinny guy. It seems like he's been very frail as of late. A lot of ticky
Hmm.
tack injuries, especially in training, not even in the octagon, in his training outside, hurt hands all the time, hurt toes, hurt fingers. And it seems like it takes a toll on him more than it does a lot of these other fighters. And he's facing Thomas O'Malley. Now, this fight's very interesting for me because Sean O'Malley's been off for so long. Uh, is Sean? I don't know what kind of Sean O'Malley we're gonna get. Sean O'Malley is one of the most talented fighters I think in the UFC, or just anywhere around. From striking, he's got decent ground game, but he's one of those guys. He's hard to hit, and he can hit really hard. Like he's just one of those guys. He just
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
slippery, can sneak it in. He's decent on the ground, and you can tell his ground game's growing. But I don't know what to expect.
This is this is probably the most interesting fight on the card. Sean O'Malley was riding that hype train. First off, had the multi-year suspension for marijuana,
Yeah,
comes back in after all this, has the various, the PD claims that, were unfounded, but that ended up getting pulled out of things. Like he just had ban after ban after ban, injury after injury after injury. Had a good little streak going, had a couple wins under his belt, a couple big knockouts, tripping with Cody Garbrandt a little bit, and then hits Cheeto Vera, and Cheeto snaps his leg in half. And so now you have Sean O'Malley, who is built on this hype, built on this confidence, undefeated, coming in here and facing a real tough guy in Thomas Almeida.
yeah.
This is not a cakewalk for any stretch.
I think this is
The only
this is his worst fight that he could come into, to be honest.
I mean, it is tough. They're basically saying, listen, Sean, there's no more cupcakes. All right. You want to be this guy, you're gonna take this next step.
Yeah.
But I really feel like he is, depending on which Sugar Sean shows up. Is Is it Sean O'Malley, the guy who just lost, or is it Sugar Sean O'Malley, who's got the confidence and the
Yeah.
swag to
Yeah.
walk in there and kind of put on a show? Um, Listen, I'm never going to doubt a showman. Vegas has him at a minus 300.
Yeah.
This should be a fight that he wins.
Yeah.
So if he's healthy, if he's trained up, if he's good to go, he should be able to walk in here and come out with a first, second round knockout, throw a little dance move out there, put up the post fight interview, But I mean, Thomas Almeida is a tough guy. He's been around, he's durable. He's 22-4. Like, he's got some fights under his belt.
Yeah.
Sugar Sean is 12-1, even though he claims that he's never been defeated. Questionable. So it'll be very interesting to see. Is it the undefeated Sugar Sean going to show up, or the guy that's got one loss? So,
and yeah, I think that's the most interesting
Sean's got
thing
this.
here is like Thomas is one of those guys to where if Sugar Sean O'Malley shows up, I don't know that Thomas has much of a chance because Thomas, he wants to get in that grind out fight kind of mode. He is somebody that's going to press against you. He likes to punch a lot in the clutch. Or in the clinch, excuse me. And then he likes to throw in a takedown here or there. Sugar Sean, he reminds me a lot of the last style bender, somebody who's very good at picking his spots, can get in and out really quick, usually stays away from the fray. And if that Sugar Sean O'Malley shows up, I mean, he's one of those guys that he can just pick a lot of these guys apart in this entire, division in the UFC. But if he gets into a tussle, if he gets into the clinch a whole lot, if he starts getting into a grind out fight, what happened last fight? We saw his leg literally get snapped in half. So let's see if Sugar Sean O'Malley shows up to the way that I know he can. I'm with you. I never doubt a showman. Guys like Conor McGregor's, the Sugar Sean, like guys that have big mouths, big personalities, and are showmen in the octagon, I'm never going to go against, because you never know what giant performance they're going to go ahead and pull out. When Conor McGregor first got the double belts, like, it's one of those things that a lot of people said, oh, there's no way he's going to be able to do it. But I never doubt guys like this. I'm going Sugar Sean here. I think he shows back up. His hiatus away, I think, has made him a little bit more hungry. He seems super like aggressive, even in the press conferences, from the way he's talking, like he looks more determined than I've seen him in a long time. So I think Sugar Sean gets it done with, I'm with you here. I'm seeing a first, second round knockout. I think he just picks him apart, and we see the Sugar Sean coming back.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that we all have to keep in mind too, is that hype train was built on guys that were out of the top 15. He picked off a lot of guys who he was clearly better than. And this is a step up towards saying, okay, it's time to start playing with the big guys if you're going to have this game. So I think, like I say, Sean, I think, has got this one, but he's definitely going to have to start stepping his game up, and it'll be interesting to see which Sean shows up.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see the return of Sugar Sean. Next up, a guy that I'm not a massive fan of, a lot of people are, but Tyron Woodley is stepping back into the octagon against Vincent it's Luque. I was trying to figure it out. I'm working, guys, on the pronunciations. All right, there's a lot of foreign names in here, and I am not very literate guy when it comes to that. But all right, so Tyron Woodley seems like he's suffered a lot of bad losses as of late, right? He's one of those guys that he's had some nice streaks, and then he'll go on a 2-fight loss, or then he'll come back, have a massive knockout, then he'll go on another 2-fight loss. I don't know what to expect. They have Vincent, minus 260 right now. But I think Tyron Woodley might be back in the groove of he's going to come out here, and he's had a lot of smack talk on him because of his last few losses. I think Tyron Woodley comes out here and gets it done. And I mean, I'm sticking with an early, I think like maybe end of the first, beginning of the second round, Tyron Woodley could sleep him.
I mean, he's always got the ability to do that. I mean, he's a great wrestler with a big right hand. I mean, those are recipes for knockouts. There's no two ways about it. But his last 3, I mean, it has been a year and a half, almost 2 years since he's won a round.
Yeah.
I'm not talking fight. I'm talking a round.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he's if he's there for it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, here's a guy he's got a rap career, he's got businesses on the side, he's got things that he's doing, and it seems like he is almost 1 foot out. Like not like like a Stipe who is a full-time fireman, who is fully committed to UFC and firefighting.
Yeah.
Woodley seems like a guy who is kind of got too many flames in the fire. I think Luque is going to come in there and put the pressure on him. I mean, the playbook is out. To beat Woodley, you put him on his back foot, you put him up against the cage, you put the pressure on him.
Yep.
Gilbert Burns did it. Usman did
Gilbert
it.
Burns destroyed him doing that.
And I mean, that's the game plan. And
Yep.
one of the things that I saw a couple different commentators, Brendan Schaub was even talking about this a year and a half ago, that when he was in the clinch up against the cage, he was looking at the clock. And when you're looking at the clock, you're not looking for that. You're looking to get out of the round. You're looking to escape. You're looking to survive.
Yeah.
I think this may be maybe not his last fight, but we're coming to the end of the Woodley era.
Yeah.
I think Vicente Luque is hungry. He's going to come in there and really put it on him.
Yeah.
And I really like that we're differing on this pick, because I like to go and keep that competition going, you know, to see who's got the most wins. So
this is true, because we've been picking similar. I think the last two, I think we maybe had one different, but most of the time we've been picking the same. Listen, now I actually just talked about this on the locker room on Tuesday. You know, I talked about Khabib's retirement and how he, you know, his heart's not in it anymore. And I think when it comes to fighting, especially, the second your heart's not in the fight's not in you. Like, that is one of the biggest things that fighters, you know, that have long streaks of failure, don't recognize early enough, is the fact that their heart's not been in it for the last 4 or 5 years. And I think we're seeing that with a lot of fighters right now. And that's, you know, it's something that I commend Khabib on. You know, why would we want Khabib to come back and risk, you know, the 29-0 if his heart's not going to be out there? I mean, it got a little dodgy with Justin Gaethje. And if it wasn't for the sheer fact that I think his, you know, the willpower of wanting to win for his father was there, like, that's a fight that could have gotten very interesting. You know, he got hurt pretty early in that fight against Gaethje. Like you said, Tyron Woodley looks like his last couple of fights have just been bad. I mean, it looks like he's just not ready to be out there, doesn't want to be out there. And this is the same feeling. I get a lot of Cowboy Cerrone in Tyron Woodley, like that feeling of, like, you know, they're out there, they're working, they say they want to be there, you know, but at the end of the day, are you just collecting a paycheck to get punched in the face for 3 rounds and get, you know, I don't really know. I want to give Tyron Woodley the benefit of the doubt here and say, hey, you know, he shows up, he comes out, has an explosive knockout. And listen, we've seen fighters that are at the end of their career come out and have big wins towards the end of their career and then, you know, retire on a high note. So maybe Tyron Woodley wants to come out and prove, like, hey, I still got it, gets the knockout and walks away. I don't know. I'm going to go Tyron Woodley here just for the simple fact that, you know, he's the underdog. And I think Vincent is the better, definitely has been the better fighter as of late, and Tyron Woodley's not shown a whole lot, but I got to give Tyron the benefit of the doubt here.
Well, and a lot of times, like, we got to keep in mind too. I mean, A, we're not making that walk; they are. But B,
true,
you know, it's not that they're just cashing in to try to get their paycheck, to get their, like, Woodley's, you know, probably got a 20-20 or a 30-30. So he, you know, he's not just showing up just to make that check. But he's showing up to win that fight with these other things going on. And there is a lion across the cage from you who has nothing else going on.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Vince Vaughn said, there's just a couple of Polacks with bad intentions and nothing to do, looking to cause some trouble. And that's what they're got going on. I mean, like, they have nothing else going on. This is their life. Their life is to beat you.
Yeah.
And your life is to beat them and drop your new single, and you got your energy drink coming out, and you're doing this for E Network, or you're doing, and so, you know, when these young lions come in there, it's tough to keep up if you've got a bunch of other things going on.
Yeah, I mean, look at Conor McGregor. Since he got the whole Floyd Mayweather paycheck and basically has, you know, so much money, he doesn't have to do anything if he doesn't want to the rest of his life. I mean, we've seen Conor struggle since then. You know, that the last time we really saw the real Conor McGregor was against Cowboy Cerrone, and that was, you know, that was simply, he said he wanted to perform out of respect. So I mean, I hate getting to the point, and I understand it. There's athletes that get to this point in their careers where they're towards the end of it. They realize, and I think we're honestly approaching that stage with LeBron James, with all that stuff he has going on. Like, you can tell, especially this year. I think after he got his last, you know, championship, I think he's kind of phasing out. Like, listen, you know, like, I've got so much going on outside of the sport, and you can see their
Mm-hmm.
minds start to drift. I hope, I just want to see athletes go out on top. I think that's just part of my personality. So I hope Tyron
Yeah.
gets a knockout and then says, I'm done. You know, I've got
Yeah.
so much going on, and walk away. But that brings us
You'd
to
rather him go out like a Jordan,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know,
Like a Jordan.
winning championships. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. All
I
right.
mean,
Go ahead. Next fight.
we ignore the Wizards years, but you know, that that's
Go
another.
ahead. Next fight. Go ahead. Next fight. It's fine.
Exactly. All right, the fight of the night, the fight that I'm super stoked about because Stipe's become one of my favorite people, like, in the entire world. I love the guy, but I also love Francis Ngannou. Like, both these guys, for some reason, I've just fallen in love with as of late. I watched the Joe Rogan with Francis Ngannou, and I was just like, oh, dude, this dude's awesome. And like, I never really paid
Yeah.
attention to him, but I love Francis. I love Stipe. Man, the fight's so close. I mean, Vegas has it at a -130. Like, it's another one of those toss-up fights, like we're even starting the night out with. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Stipe says he's gonna, you know, he wants to hold on to the belt, and I know Stipe's towards the end of his career, or is thinking about going towards the end of his career. But Francis is hungry. I don't know. What do you got?
This I have been going back and forth with
Me too.
literally still right now.
Yeah.
Stipe is the most disrespected fighter in
Thank
UFC
you.
history. He is a champion. Not only a champion, he's defended the heavyweight belt more than any other fighter has.
In history.
And the issue is he's still the underdog. He's the champion, and he's an underdog to
Right?
Francis
That's what I'm
right
saying.
now. I mean, I went and looked up his last couple fights here, and he is the underdog to Francis. It was dead even with Cormier in the rematch.
Yeah.
He was he was an underdog to Cormier in the first fight, or in the second fight. Sorry, he was actually favored to win in the first one. He was an underdog against Francis the first time. He was like, he is just the most disrespected fighter there is. And it blows my mind. Here's a guy who is a literal hero.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's not making energy drinks and doing all this stuff on the side. He is fighting fires. He is working his rotation
Yeah.
at the firehouse.
Yeah.
And the UFC has pushed him never.
Yeah.
like,
Right?
like, here's a guy who is a heavyweight champion of the world, a firefighter, and not only does he get so little respect that he is not even the favorite to win fights, but he's got no marketing push whatsoever.
Yeah.
But like you say, and then you have Francis, who is a great guy,
Yeah.
who's got insane power, who literally knocked Alistair Overeem's soul out of his body, who hit Cain Velasquez so hard in the forehead it broke his leg. Like, like here's a guy who just is got it, but who also has the worst fight in UFC history against Derek Lewis.
Right?
So I mean, it's just, of all the things that you think, man, the UFC could really push this. I don't know. I can't decide. I know that the UFC probably wants Francis to win,
I would assume
because
that,
it sets up. I mean, it sets up so many things. It sets up Francis John Jones. It sets up Francis Derek Lewis rematch. Derek Lewis is the number 2 guy in the heavyweight division at this point. So I mean, it sets up a lot of rematches. It sets up all this stuff. But gosh, I just don't know that you beat Stipe.
that's the thing.
I mean, he looked phenomenal against Cormier.
And that was a fight. That was a fight that a lot of people thought, like, if this was where Stipe is gonna trip up, it's gonna be against Cormier, especially because Cormier was so hungry to try and get that belt one more time. You know, because we all knew Cormier was coming to an end, but he wanted that belt, and I thought we were gonna see, you know, the best of Cormier that night, and it seemed like even Cormier's best meant nothing. I mean, Stipe was just shedding him and just grinding him out the whole time, defended takedowns. I mean, he just popped him over and over and over. And it just, I mean, it was just total domination from start to finish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Cormier had him for a while there, and then decided to get into that dirty boxing game. And once he got into that, Stipe found the body shot, and that it was just that's where it ended.
Tore his ribs. Oh, that was a bad body shot night.
You know, it's been years since Stipe and Francis faced off the first time.
Yeah.
Stipe outclassed him. Stipe has gotten about 200 years older since then. And Francis has fought like 4 times for a grand total of 1:17.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, when you think about it, Francis has had one 3-round fight with Derek Lewis, which was gone down as the worst UFC history. And then I think the longest he's been in a fight. So the same stuff that Stipe did last time, maybe not. We don't know.
Yeah,
you know, 1:17 his longest fight.
Well, and I guess the big question here is does octagon time matter? Because you have people like Conor McGregor who says absolutely octagon time matters, round time matters. You know, because if that does come into play, and this has been a big argument because of Conor's, you know, recent loss to Dustin, saying like, listen, I've only been in the octagon for, you know, 6 minutes total or whatever. If that's a real thing, I think Francis could be in a lot of trouble here, because if it does get past the first round, you know, if Francis doesn't catch him with a massive, you know, bomb to the face and somehow knock him out in the first round, if this thing drags out, I think that's where Stipe is going to have a massive advantage, because Stipe is one of those guys, like you said, Stipe is not somebody who just walks out there and knocks you out. You know, Stipe he boxes you to death. And he's great at takedown defense. You know, he's not going to catch himself in any dumb situations. He knows when to pull out when it gets dodgy. He's good in the clinch. Like, Stipe is just a very smart and great overall fighter. So if this fight's dragging out, and if octagon time matters, then I think Stipe's got a massive advantage here. But I guess the real question is do you think octagon time matters?
I think that it matters. In the case of Conor, it matters in the fact that he had been training for boxing matches for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So when he got in there, he was in boxing mode. Stipe, I know he has aspirations to box and to be a professional boxer as well. But, you know, you look at his last couple performances when he faced Rosenstruck, his footwork was off. He was missing more punches than he was throwing, but all that mattered is that he hit one, you know, and that's the thing about Francis is if he hits one, it's over. Like, that's game. Now my question to you is if I say this fight is stopped in the first round, who do you think won?
Ngannou.
If I say the fight was over in the 4th round, who do you think won?
Oh, that's Stipe.
Yeah. So that's the big thing right now is if Stipe can make it out of that first round, he's got a real great chance of walking away.
Yeah.
If he can't, and if Francis gets him cornered, another thing to think about is this is at the Apex Center, which is a smaller octagon, which means there's less room to run.
Yep.
Which means when those 2 giant human beings get locked in that small cage, like, it's just, not only is there less room to run, there's less room to chase.
Exactly.
So Francis isn't going to have to be going out of his way as far. Stipe is not going to have to go out of his way so far if they get into a trouble situation. I am personally a little tired of the disrespect for Stipe, so I'll go Stipe.
Okay.
begrudgingly. Like, I think because if Francis touches you, it's over.
Right.
But I mean, I just feel like this guy gets no respect. So I'll pick him. He'll probably lose, but I'll pick him to win this. But yeah, that's who I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm gonna go Francis just so we can be opposite here, so that way one of us is a winner. But I think, like you said, if Stipe cannot get himself caught in the first minute and a half of the first round, I think he's okay. Because the way Francis has been approaching his recent fights, and I mean, because he's just been charging forward 1-2, bam, guys down. I mean, his last fight lasted, what was it? Like 9 seconds, 11 seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
so like you said, he spent like a total of a minute and 30 seconds in the octagon, in his last 3 fights or whatever. So it's one of those
Yeah.
things that if Stipe can be safe for the first minute and a half, I think this is one of those that it does go the distance. And at the end of the day, if anything goes the distance with Stipe, I think Stipe is a much smarter fighter than Francis, and he knows how to just score his points and stay safe. But the question is, it's really hard to stay safe when you have somebody the size of Francis Ngannou throwing massive bombs at your face in the first, 30 seconds of a round.
Yeah.
So I'll go opposite here of you. I want Stipe to win, but I also wouldn't be mad if Francis won.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, oh, I can't stand this. This is ridiculous. This is going to be a great fight. This is going to be one of those fights that I'm sitting on the edge of my seat and I don't really want to watch it, but I have to watch it. Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like every time I watch Conor McGregor or John Jones fight, like you're just sitting there going like, oh, is this going to last? Is it going to come out victorious for the guy that I want? I don't know. It's very rare that you have those fights in the UFC that of those guys that you really want to just be on the edge of your seat going, man, I hope this guy pulls it out. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Stipe's disrespect is just a little bit ridiculous. I'd love to see him finally put to bed the Francis Ngannou conversation because a lot of people, like you said, he's the underdog and he's the champion.
Yeah.
And he's always the underdog and he's always the champion. So it's one of those things like I would love to see it finally be put to rest and say, all right, Stipe is the greatest heavyweight of all time. No one will ever, ever, ever come into conversations with him unless somehow John Jones, wakes up and decides to destroy the entire heavyweight division in a couple of months.
John Jones says, hold my picograms.
Yeah, when John Jones says, hey, can you hold my cocaine real quick? I got to go in and fight.
But side note, Stipe is already an underdog against John Jones if that fight were to be scheduled. So, I mean, the disrespect doesn't stop.
Yeah. I mean, John Jones hasn't even fought in the heavyweight. Like, we've not even seen him at this division yet. Now, if this was, with John Jones's division, the light heavyweight, like, I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, John Jones is arguably the greatest fighter of all time. I would get that. That's super sad. But Stipe, we hope that you go ahead and take the belt back. You keep it for a long time. Because I don't know. I'm torn because I also like Ngannou, but I think I'm with you here, and I want Stipe to maintain his legacy, and I want the respect to finally be there. And then, like you said, if there's ever a guy that the UFC should push, it's a guy who's not only a hometown hero, but an Octagon hero, like one of the best human beings we have fighting right now. He's just an awesome guy. Well, we will have to see.
I mean,
go ahead.
The big issue is John Jones. Like, let's be honest here. John does everything better than both Stipe, Francis, and Derek Lewis.
Yep.
And he's just sitting back waiting. So, I mean, whoever wins, it's awesome. Great. I'm really excited for you. John's gonna put it on you in like 6 months. Like, it's terrifying.
Well, and the crazy thing is John Jones has been talking, his communication with the UFC has just started to ramp up more and more and more. And I think John's finally in a good headspace, which is even scarier than I think John Jones actually being in the Octagon. Because a lot of what we saw of early John and even John as of late, still partying, still not training for fighters, just didn't care. And let's be honest, he was just dominating fighters without even trying because he could. He knew he was that much better. I think in the heavyweight division, he knows that if he doesn't actually put his best foot forward, these bigger guys can knock you out in one punch. And he's never dealt, but there's very few guys I would say, that he's fought that could delve out that kind of power. So a mentally focused John Jones is even scarier. The fact that he
Yeah.
has taken the time away to get his life in order as well. You
Yeah.
can tell even from his Instagram, you can tell like things are properly in order at his home. And when things are in order, outside of the octagon and your training's consistent, uh, it's going to be nigh to impossible to touch a John Jones that has had a good break, mentally in the right space, and physically has built his body up over time, which is what a lot of people also talked about, him trying to just rush and get to the heavyweight. He's taken
Yeah.
his time and he's built it the right way. And I think, I mean, we saw a girl pass out literally last week in weigh-ins, but John's
Yeah.
taken his time to build up to this. And, like you said, the winner of this fight is going to just have John Jones sitting on a stool like, I'm here. We're ready for
Yeah.
this next fight. So
Yeah.
whoever wins this, if it's Stipe, like just retire 2 weeks later, be like, I'm done. I'm going to go be a professional boxer, a firefighter. Francis, you go take on John Jones. Don't lose the belt
Exactly.
to John Jones. I would just walk away. But there you have it. I will make sure that I put our scorecards out there for everybody to see. Once again, my co-host is always Steve. I want to thank you for doing this. Listen, guys, Steve has a busy life.
Of course.
He's remodeling his house right now. Like, he's got 3 kids, 3 of my awesome, beautiful nieces. He's got my awesome sister as his wife. Like, this man works a full-time job. He's always busy, works out, getting the gains every day in the gym, and he still finds time for the locker room and the Puncher's Chance. So we want to thank you for coming on the show. Steve, you're a beloved person, by the way. I didn't know if you know this,
Oh
but
yeah.
you get a lot. You get a lot of love from our crowd. That they enjoy you.
Oh, there you go.
They think you're hilarious. And also, FNX Fitness posted the picture of your calf after you worked out on their page. So thousands and thousands of people saw your calf last week, which made it made my week. The fact that they even posted it, I was just like, I was like, at this point, like I'm all in. Like, this is amazing. But once again, before we go, FNX Fitness, if you're not doing it, I don't know why you're not doing it. Those of you who are doing the FNX 30-day challenge, like, go buy FNX products. Like, if you're going to do the FNX challenge, go to FNX and get your products, because you're going to be a bigger, healthier, stronger, much better looking you. Like, I don't know if the better looking part comes with working out, but like, it just works magic. It's amazing.
Listen, like COVID's over, guys. We're going to have to start seeing people again. So let's go ahead and make it halfway respectable.
Yeah. Your quarantine, like, it was nice. It's cute. You got your quarantine 15, but at some point you're going to have to go back to your coworkers and your jobs and to school. And they're going to look at your moose body and be like, what the hell happened to you during quarantine? Listen, I'm already doing that. And the sad part is, guys, I should have been doing this for my wife a long time ago, but it's one of those things that I stepped on a scale and looked at a weight that I did not think I would ever get near. And I just broke down in tears. So I made the change today, all with the help of FNX Fitness. And then we have a brand new sponsor coming on very shortly, which is going to be very awesome for you guys as well. So they will also be a part of a Puncher's Chance. So very excited about all the new things happening. Once again, Steve's social media will be attached. My social media will be attached. The locker room social media is attached. Give us a follow. If you like our content, share it with a friend. The best way to get this show out there is by sharing it. So just give us a share, and we will see you next time on a Puncher's Chance. Steve, thanks again, my man.
We'll see ya. Bye.